Hi, I'm Thomas Gebert, doing a rambling about MDK 1. Now, I've previously did a review of MDK 2, so, I just figured MDK 1 would be appropriate because I love this game as well. I don't have as much nostalgia with this because I actually played MDK 2 first, which is rare for me. I usually play games in order, but I played MDK 2 first because a friend of mine had it on his Dreamcast, and I borrowed the Dreamcast for a while and played through that. But I do like this game a lot. It's not as good as MDK 2 in my opinion, but it's a lot of fun, and it's still a great game you can get for pretty cheap nowadays on games like Good Old Games and Steam. So if you can get it on Steam or Good Old Games for like $5 or so, which is what I paid, I recommend it because it's terrific. It's still one of my favorite games by Shiny. My favorite still being Earthworm Jim because it's the greatest game of all time. But it's besides the point. So yeah, MDK 1. I didn't get the entire level in this footage because I got to about 14 minutes and realized I was going to run out of time. But I got most of the level, so keep it in mind. I didn't want to part this into like 3 different parts. Forgive the frame rate counter on this video. Fraps for some reason decided it had to record the frame rate. I don't know why. It doesn't matter. But this game is almost as good as MDK 2, and in some ways better. It's a lot more strategic than MDK 2 because. And you wouldn't know it from my gameplay here. I'm kind of a run and gun person myself, but the game's a lot more strategic in that you depend a lot more on the sniper rifle or the sniper than you do on the chain gun because a lot of the enemies go down with one hit if you get them in the head. So it's in your advantage to get them from far away in the head, so that way you can run through the level easier. Now, I pretty much completely suck with sniper rifles, so I don't use them very often. But this was the first game, at least the first commercially released game, to incorporate a sniper rifle you could zoom in on. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, this was the first game to have a sniper. So even games like Call of Duty and stuff owe a little bit to MDK because this was the first to have the sniper. So yeah, it's a lot of games owe a lot to this game. I mean, there's really not a lot wrong with this game. I mean, the graphics haven't aged so well, but they look okay, and the soundtrack is terrific. It's arguably Tommy Tallarico's best work. Tommy Tallarico, if you didn't know, does the soundtrack for virtually every game. He does a lot, like every Shiny game. Now, if you do want to get this on GOG or Steam, you will. What I had to do to get this thing working without graphical errors was get a no CD crack of the Glide version, and then have to get a Glide wrapper. So you could look up guides on how to do this online, but that should get you started if you want to play. It's not too hard. It's just you have to know what to do. Yeah. So you have to. Here, I mean, they kind of touch this first level. I think is really well designed because it does a good job getting you acquainted with the with how the controls mechanics work. It's not a very difficult first level. But it does a good job getting you acquainted with the controls and just kind of showing you what you have to expect. And it really does showcase the game's tremendous humor. Now, the game's not quite perfect. That thing at the beginning where I was falling down towards the crawler, and this is really not the game's fault as much as modern computing's fault. I use the WASD layout when I play this game, like a standard third-person shooter from nowadays. So when that beginning scene with me falling down, that's a bit hard to control because that's not the WASD is not the normal controls. But that's really doesn't become much of an issue. You get used to it. It doesn't hurt the game really. You just have to know what to expect. This part actually was a bit challenging when I first played this on the PlayStation. I got the PlayStation version of this game first, and then I got the PC version because I liked it better. But this was pretty challenging on the PlayStation because the controls in the PlayStation version kind of suck. Because you can map them, you can change the controls in the PlayStation version, but I found it a tough time. I had a tough time actually controlling it at all. And this thing is a pain. This fucking tank here, it takes forever to kill with your standard shots. If you get the super chain gun, it's not too bad. But this will take forever, and every single one of his bullets knocks you down. It pisses me off. This is for my nightmares. Now, I actually, MDK 2 explains the story for this game, but MDK 1 doesn't. You wouldn't really know unless you read the box art for this game or read the manual. But the basic story is that Dr. Fluke Hawkins was considered mad by a lot of people because that's as a mad scientist. So what he does is he goes to space and to go away from his detractors. Then the Earth gets invaded by aliens. So a lot of people have been killed. So what the doctor does is he sends Kurt down because he brought his janitor with him to space, obviously. So he sent Kurt down to help Kurt's janitor. Kurt down a special untested coil suit, which is the suit with the parachutes and chain gun and a sniper rifle, to help save the Earth from the evil Gunter Glut. Now, I realize it's probably confusing what I'm saying this, but I assure you, the story is not deep, but it's awesome. I mean, the story gets the job done. And the manual, if you read it, it's one of the funniest manuals I've ever read. It's a really great. The game, again, as I said, you can get it on Good Old Games. It won't cost you much there. If you get it on like a disc copy, it'll cost you a few bucks. But I don't see the point. I'm pretty sure everything will be replaced by digital download in the future. And I like, as I said, I can't recommend Good Old Games enough. If you if you want to get a game, look it up on Good Old Games, GOG.com first, because their games are all DRM free and are very nice and easy to use. So yeah, I recommend it. But this game, I mean, this is just so incredibly fun. I mean, that's the operative word here, is that the game is just extremely fun and playable. And that's pretty cool considering this came out in, I believe, 1996. So considering the game's about 14 or so years old, the game's aged remarkably well. I mean, graphically not so much, but just the game doesn't feel old. It feels just as fun as any other third-person shooter from nowadays. What comes to mind is the newest Bionic Commando game as the direct comparison, which I actually liked. I'll probably get to that one eventually. This one kind of feels like it, but this is better. Yeah, this is and like MDK 2, these hallways are loading screens. There's no loading screens during the level. So that's pretty cool, because that means that the game is uninterrupted throughout most of it. This is a pretty fun part. See, this is part of the reason MDK 1 is just such you know you have a special game, because the game just gets so mixed up throughout the entire game. There's just so many different play modes, and for a 1996 game, that is extremely impressive. Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things that games that you can come back to after 10 years and still just has just as much fun as before. The first time I played this, it was 2003 on the PlayStation. And it just hasn't aged at all, but then again, it was already aged at that point. But you can just see, I mean, this is a very influential game. You can see it in a lot of newer games. The style and overall just presentation have been used in newer games. I don't think they're ripping it off as much as it shows a certain amount of influence over the genre, sort of like the movie Star Wars in that respect. Though I'm probably the first person to compare Star Wars and MDK. Yeah, this is always fun because they just don't stand any chance against the bombs. They just kill everything in one hit. Yeah, you can see it here. It's just pretty cool, and it helps clear the level out so you don't die so quickly. Yeah, just nuke the ceilings here. I really don't see the point of nuking the ceilings. Actually, I always do, but I never really saw the point of bombing those ceilings. I'm an automaton and just do what's the norm. I don't know what this thing does. I've always blown it up every time. I have no idea what that thing does. I'm assuming it involves stopping Republican forces or something. No, that's just my wet dream. Never mind. But yeah. See, so I cleared the level out. I gotta go get ammo, and I mean, I can't think of what I haven't said already. I mean, what I could say more. This game came out on PlayStation, DOS, and Macintosh. The PlayStation version and the Macintosh version have an intro cutscene, which serves no purpose. So those versions will cost you a lot more. So I don't recommend them. Well, actually, the PlayStation version is pretty cheap, but the Macintosh version will cost you like $10-15 while the PlayStation version or the DOS version will cost about $5 or $6. If you get it from Good Old Games, you get the soundtrack as an MP3 download as well. So that's awesome. I actually do listen to the soundtrack in my iPod because it's terrific and it makes really good music. And I mean, as I said, Tommy Tallarico did a great job with the soundtrack. Not that MDK 2 I think was an improvement. So you don't have to play. If you're only going to play one of them, I recommend MDK 2 because that's better. But, I mean, why would you only want to play one of them? Both these games are cheap as hell, and both these games are really fun and awesome. So, yeah, get them both. You get them both for like $10. I think I paid $8 for both on Steam. So, just keep that in mind. Let's see. Oh, this game is kind of like Doom in not really in gameplay, but as much as that you don't aim up or down. Pretty much all I'm controlling with the mouse there is left or right movement. I don't control up or down, and you don't need to. It'll automatically aim up or down for you. As long as you're aiming in the proper direction, it'll adjust your height. So just keep that in mind, I guess. You'll figure it out if you play it. So you see, I got the world's smallest nuclear bomb. I'm gonna go bomb the door. The nuclear bombs are effectively there to make sure you kill X number of enemies before you go to the next part. Kind of like a clearing in like Double Dragon or something. So yeah, I'm running into the load screen effectively. This part is it took me a while to figure out as a kid. I don't know why. When I was like 12 or 13. I don't know why, because maybe it's just because I'm a pro at it now. It seems so obvious, but yeah, but this is pretty easy. You just launch the sniper mortars into the holes on the top there. There is a save feature. You can save any point you want on this game. I was trying to snipe out. The sniper bullets do more damage than the chain gun, so you can sometimes do a little more damage that way, but it didn't seem to do anything there. You can save at any point. You press F2, and that'll save. You can save at that point, which I wish I had known before I beat the game the first time, because I remember. I mean, it was a challenging thing because if you die, if you don't save and you die, you go back to the last save or the beginning of the level. So, and these levels are long. There's only like 8 levels, but these levels are very long. So So if you don't save, the game's a lot more challenging. So yeah, there is a save button. You press F2, that'll do it. It's been about a while since I've actually played through this game thoroughly, so I thought for some reason the extra sniper mortar was back here. So I go back because there's none back there. So yeah, I gotta go back and there's some sniper mortar up there. Something kind of cool, you didn't see this too often in games at the time, is that you can actually hang on ledges. And that's common in pretty much every game now, but at the time that was pretty nifty. I missed there. I went in. See, I fired up there. Well, my video decided to cut out. Thanks again, Fraps. Piece of shit software. Well, I'm going to wrap it up, though. MDK is just simply a brilliant game. You can get it online for about $5, and I recommend you do. It is terrific, and if you don't play it, then you are costing yourself, you're depriving yourself of just a beautifully awesome game. This has been Thomas Gebert. Adios.